So welcome today. It's me and Liza and Amlani. My name is Gary Newbury. I'm a senior executive on call specializing in retail supply chain. My purpose in life is to inspire business and particularly retail business leaders to think big, be bold, scale, adapt and win one epic and somewhat substantial supply chain transformation at a time. So Lisa, do you want to give us your quick?
Well, I mean, that's really tough to follow, Gary. I am a retail expert, but my wheelhouse is really merchandising. I was a merchant for over 20 years, and then I did some consulting work, of course, around retail strategy. So really understanding what retailers are going through today from a merchant perspective and helping them either digitize or find better ways to work to reduce their time to market and get closer to their customer.
Cool, excellent.
Yeah.
So I think you've got some questions for me today, and we're
I do.
Tussle our way through some great retailing ideas and concepts, which are thrown around like confetti.
Exactly. And so what I'm going to ask you
better not pick it up, because somebody might actually ask you, if it's me, ask you, what the heck are you telling me?
So I think that what we're hearing a lot today, especially in that world of consulting and on LinkedIn, and just what does a digital transformation mean? So if a retailer comes to you and says, I need digital transformation, but I don't know what it means, but I need it. What does it mean to you as the exec on call?
I'd like to think of this in a sort of really basic way, because we can get confused. As soon as we put digital in front of somebody, we kind of think immediately, we leap to, our go-to is technology. We need some of it, we need loads of it, we need, if we've got some, we need even more. The whole purpose of a digital transformation, I believe, as a simple working sort of definition, is that it's a transformation a business needs to do to keep relevant in its marketplace and have it relevant for the digital age. And the digital age actually started broadly about 2007, 2008 with the advent of the iPhone. But it took some time to kind of percolate within the consumers for them to say, oh, I can actually do things. And of course, they're often a restricted capability to do things online, but the pandemic seems to have accelerated that in a great way. But a digital transformation will be a transformation a business needs to do, and it could be the business model, the propositions, maybe some part of the technology strategy, infrastructure that needs to move forward for us to have the capabilities to remain relevant in our marketplace, in the eyes of the consumer, for the digital age.
Well, for me, what digital transformation really means is to simplify the way that you're doing your work and the way you work, and using and enabling technology to do things differently. When I think of retail's digital transformation, especially over the last 12 months or so, what we're seeing is that customer behaviors are shifting, and they're shifting very, very quickly. How a retailer would react to that would be, they're going to go cancel their orders because they cannot shift what they bought so close to the season. And that's where speed to market comes in. So when you think about digital transformation from a retailer merchant perspective, we're thinking about digitizing the line plan, parts of the line plan, removing manual and redundant work and approvals. Oh, we'd love to have approvals across the board. We don't need those. Digitizing sampling, that's a great one, because samples not only cost so much money, but it takes like months for samples going back and forth with fittings and approvals and testing. So if you could digitize some of that. And then of course, digitizing the way that you actually go to market. So selling to wholesale. I think that PVH Group, so the Tommy Hilfigers of the world, Michael Kors of the world even, they do such a great job. Calvin Klein does such a great job when they go to market as a wholesaler, a lot of their line is actually digitized, and you're going into the showroom and you're just picking maybe fabrics, but you're not reinventing the wheel. So that digitization of certain processes could be part of a retailer's overall digital transformation, but it's really about simplifying the way you work.
Yeah, and to an extent automating, but not necessarily, you know, people conjure up when they say automating, they're thinking about, you know, robots going around, but sometimes it's a bit more basic than that. We're just saying that all these manual things, that some of those that you alluded to, which we used to use spreadsheets and lots of people doing things and levels, as you say, of approvals. Well, just understand what it is, define what the process needs to be, put software on top of that, technology on top of that, and it becomes automated. So you start managing exceptions, rather than making the exception be like what we do around here.
Yeah, but it's almost like you need to stop doing everything you're doing and look at things differently. How can you do things better? Retailers hate change. And the fact is that in most retail organizations, people are working in silos. So whether it's by category, menswear, it doesn't talk to women's wear, or bottoms doesn't talk to tops, or marketing doesn't talk to product development and product creation. So there's just not enough cross collaboration of teams happening to even understand what you know, being customer centric means, which brings me to my next buzzword, let's call it, customer centricity. People love to talk about that. Tell me about your thoughts around customer centricity.
Yeah, I think to understand customer centricity, we need to understand the alternatives so that people can kind of get a sense of, oh, that's what we mean. We're not doing that. So there are kind of three levels. There's process centricity. So we focus on the process. You know, the customer has to fit into our process, and then we're dead good at whatever it is we're delivering. We're very consistent. I'm hoping that we have very high quality around that consistency as well. But you've got product centricity or product focus, where you're saying, this is our range of product we're developing, but we're not really developing totally with the consumer or customer engaged in this process, ideation and formulation of products. So we kind of say, well, we don't need to talk to the customer. We kind of know what we're doing. So we're going to develop these shoes, dresses, whatever it might be, is you know, spanners, wrenches in Canadian tire. You know, I'm sure the customer will want this. When you have customer centricity, where your whole emphasis as an organization is to constantly research the target segment that you're going for, the particular needs or their behaviors or whatever it might be, that you've decided there's enough. If properly organized, there's enough profit in this segment, in this group of consumers, and their needs are constantly changing by day, by month, by event, by aspiration, by expectation. You're following that trend. You don't go and do the research and then say, right, we've got the whole thing, and spend 5 years of doing other stuff based on that research. You go back to and they've gone, they've changed. Their demographic has changed, their expectation, aspiration has changed. So customer centricity is not putting the customer at the center of the business. So of course, most people would be hard pressed to say we're not doing that. But when you look at the actual behaviors, they're not doing what I've just described.
Yeah, I mean, I like the way you put that, but I would almost say you need to think about the customer differently. So in a lot of cases, you're thinking about your customer at the end of your cycle. So let's take the line plan and product life cycle, for example. Traditionally, you have your concept, you're working with your merchandising teams, your marketing teams, your product creation teams, and you're developing your concept up front. And then you develop your line plan, your assortment. And then at the end of that, after you go to market and you actually get the product on the floor, that's when you engage with your customer. So that to me is your customer is not in the center. Sure, you're thinking about them across every point in time. But if you look at it differently, where it's a circle and you have your customer in the center, and every single thing that you're doing ties back to the customer, and you're not waiting until the product's on the shop floor or in your e-com store before engaging with that customer. I'll give you one example, which is my favorite example, is when you use a customer, I get so excited, when you use the customer and their thoughts, and when you're validating product before you're even creating the product. So let's say I'm a a very famous shoe brand. We won't name who they are, but I'm sure you can guess. So let's say we're a product designer and we start to have these focus groups, and we put out into the world, let's say Instagram or another validation tool on social, to say, okay, what do you think of this design? What do you think of these colors? And engage them and help them to get more involved when you're actually creating the product. You're engaging them before you're even sampling the product and going into production. And you're going to save a lot of time because your customer is going to validate that product before it even hits production. And that's what I mean by getting the customer involved and in the center of your entire process.
It's in that ideation process. That becomes the process. Right?
Yes.
We're ideating. Where's the customer? Bring him in. Bring him or her in. Or a group of them in. Let us work on this. What does this look like to you? What are you looking at? What are the things that are going on in the life which would distract you from buying our stuff? So how do we better shape this so that it remains relevant to you on your own customer journey? So,
exactly. Think Mad Men having a focus group in the office, but let's digitize that whole thing, which I think people are doing, but I don't know if they're doing it so far ahead of creation where they can use digital twins instead of actually creating the product, and using these social platforms like a TikTok or even a Twitch, and really engaging with the customer almost one-on-one, which is just super fascinating. And also you're validating before your production, which is, that's the magic.
It's all that design. I mean, if we put these stages along the design curve, when you're here and you've got the idea and you're sharing it, as you're suggesting, through digital platforms, and you're getting some feedback pretty quickly, and you're able to leap over here and say, didn't like that start. Right, okay, what about this color? We're on to blue is the new black. Charging around, and then you can develop it, keeping the customer with you on that journey until you actually go to market, get it on the shelf. If you think about that design process, that just as you move through time and the costs start to rise very quickly, and it would just take it through to something more kind of logistics focused. It's so easy when you're designing a warehouse to do some what ifs, some scenario planning. And so, well, we didn't need adjustable pallet racking. We needed a continuous live feed system for, say, e-commerce. Glad we didn't build it and find it out, because that's pretty expensive to take it out. Learn that you've made a mistake, take it all out and put new stuff in. Very disruptive. So the earlier you can, I think, if we're talking about customer centricity, we're actually saying we're actually avoiding lots of hassle later, actually involving the customer right at that instant of, these are the things we're starting to think about, to ideate around, and before we even create the thing in as a physical artifact.
Exactly. And all of that is going to tie into your the fact that the fashion industry loves to overproduce, and that we are a culture that loves to consume, but yet we are changing what we value, which is sustainability and circularity and things like resale. So I think that there's a lot of opportunities to involve the customer to understand, okay, yes, they say they want sustainable products, but what are they going to pay for it? What does this sustainability mean to them? Does it mean practices, or does it mean textiles? Like, what does it mean, and what is the value to your customer? And then bringing those practices into the way you create products, so the customer is a lot more emotionally engaged. Obviously, I'm not a digital marketer, so I don't know all the fabulous terms that people are using these days, but that's really what it comes down to in my eyes.
Cool. So here's one for you.
Okay.
Customer journey.
Okay. So
Marks out of 10.
That's a great one. That's a great one. Yeah, that's a great one. Customer journey, again, that is a marketing big consulting firm. let's call it jargon right now. So when we talk about the customer journey, in my eyes, as a former merchant, as a retailer, what I would say is about how the journey from the customer searching for the product, or the product they don't even know they want, right? And then actually purchasing the product, but also how they engage with the brand. So it's really that omni channel-less experience almost. And that's what the customer journey is really how do they engage with you, is how do you keep them engaged, and is it seamless? So when I say seamless, which, you know, I'm sure you'll have lots to say about that, as a supply chain guy, when I think of seamless is when I use the Nike app, do they know how I'm working out, what I'm wearing when I'm working out, what shoes am I wearing, what events do I like to go to, and what time of day do I do all these things? So if Nike can understand that all these things about me, and they're using, of course, Google also knows everything I'm doing, so does my iPhone. So if they can use all this information to make my purchasing journey super quick, easy, one click, marketing the right products to me because I like yoga, I don't play tennis, so don't send me, you know, emails about tennis. So I think that you can really simplify it. But let's ask you, what do you think?
Yeah, slightly different bent on this, because
Okay.
I'd be, even up to a week ago, be very much in the camp that you were describing, that you have these retail channels, and your job as a retailer is to, if a customer wants to ping pong through to the point of purchase and ultimately consumption, we just construct this fixed idea of that customer journey. We do a thing called customer journey map, and we start to understand this journey. But I actually think the customer journey is independent of retail. The customer journey is defined by the customer, or a group of customers we're trying to segment, the group that we're after, and their journey is being influenced day to day, month to month, event to event, as their expectations, aspirations change, as their circumstances change, both personally, in their family, in their community. And I think they're on a journey, and it's retailers who have to kind of catch up and try and get into what that journey really looks like, so they can be in the point you made earlier, the kind of discovery stage, is we need as retailers to be in their consideration set. How do we get into their consideration set? We have to understand their needs as they continue to evolve. They don't stay static for very long. And you know, just the last 12 months, we've seen massive shifts in consumer behavior, their preferences. And we need to make sure that we're positioning ourselves in their journey. And then we make it as easy as you suggest, easy for them to basically come onto our website if they're kind of basically a web or mobile customer. Click, and it's done. It lands on their porch, and then hopefully they will go and say some good things about us, maybe on social media, to their friends, word of mouth. Or bad, if we've done a really bad job, they use the same things probably 10 times as intense. But I think that's a customer journey, and I think that retailers, and I was having this conversation recently with somebody, that I think that retailers are stuck in customer journey mode, where it's an internal thing. It's much like, and we'll probably touch on omni-channel now, where retailers are saying, oh, we're omni-channel. And the next thing you probably ask them, what does that mean? Oh, you know, the e-commerce channel, or the store channel, mail order channel, whatever. You know, this is how we operate. We've got separate teams, separate way of doing things, separate metrics, probably separate cultures, whatever it is. And the customer does ping pong, and there's no consistency of brand across that. So the customer may be having an experience on the e-commerce thing, which is very different to what it feels like and the cognitive impact of going into the store. It's almost as if we have to keep these things in silos, very much divorced. That here's the e-commerce, there's the stores, there's the mail order, there's whatever it is, QVC, other, the TikTok shopping, whatever it might be. But the whole idea, I think, of omni-channel is to combine these into retail, into our brand. This is what our brand stands for. So this is a method of getting ourselves into that consideration set. If there's a consistency of brand and brand purpose, then we probably stand a much better chance of winning rather than fall into the wayside.
Actually, I almost think like you're making me think of this a little bit differently. I still stand on what I'm saying, but I think you're absolutely right. As most people, I live in a condo, I live in the city, and I will at least twice a week get calls from air duct cleaning services. And I know it's a big scam, but like, I live in a condo. Why are you calling me? You know, obviously I'm not as nice as them when I respond to them. But you bring up a really good point. And if, let's say, you know, I'm a Nordstrom shopper and I'm going through certain things in life where I need different products, Nordstrom should know that, because there is enough data to understand that I am not shopping for, you know, this happened to my friend, so this is not me, I'm just putting it out there, that my girlfriends, they had a baby, and the baby obviously came, and then they're still getting sent ads for maternity clothing. It can throw the customer, and you lose that loyalty if you're not using data correctly.
That's an interesting point, because Target got taken to court by a father of I think it was a 15-year-old girl, a daughter.
Yes.
Who,
yes.
Looking at their purchasing behavior, it's like, oh, and they're making suggestions. I'm not a guy who's into maternity a lot, but they're making suggestions for maybe kind of his wife, not realizing they were talking to, you know, the observable behavior of 15-year-old experiencing pregnancy for the first time.
Yeah, we definitely talked about that in the Merchant Life newsletter. I was like, it was like a few editions ago. But yeah, no, I think that's a great example. But I love the fact that you made me think about customer journey a little bit differently.
Yeah. So, well, I think we've done. Well, I don't know if you want to say any more about omnichannel, because I didn't.
Oh, Omni is a big conversation. I think maybe we might have to do that for another episode. But I think it's just, the retailer just needs to be a little bit more smarter. They have access to data. They have access to evolving the way that they engage with the customer across all platforms, whether it's a shopping platform or an activity. So it's really just about retailers getting smarter. And, you know, I would like to leave it at that.
Well, I'd say this, in one of the statements you made just then, it was like they've got access to data. I think there's still a huge black hole. If you do it on the e-commerce platform, they probably, you know, depending on what their data collection thing is, date of birth and things that really identify you very clearly. But I can walk into a store, I can be effectively a gold level customer in the lifetime value matrix, and they don't know me. You know, I walk into the Home Depot or, you know, Canadian Tire, they won't know me from Adam. They just look at me, I'm a bit scruffy. Oh well, you know, it's in R32, go away. Whereas if only they could, and this is, I think, small business can actually make a big difference for themselves.
Yes, agreed.
The e-commerce from maybe Shopify or their own endeavors, all they now need to do to join things up is to associate fairly quickly that customer who they may actually know by name with their buying transactions, maybe for a loyalty card, or just by saying, oh, always remember to, you know, when you come in, just remember to give me the account number and I'll bill it into or whatever. And they can join the whole thing up, and they can see from the data, they can see the whole customer's purchasing behaviors, and then be in a much stronger position to move their proposition to make sure they're in line with that consumer. Whereas if you imagine Loblaws, you imagine that they've got huge amount of data around them, huge amount of technology and processing capability in terms of not only the machines but the people. But I think that when they tried to integrate the PC card, they had these sort of black holes everywhere. It's still, you know, these loyalty things. You have your, you know, digital platform inputs, and I think they probably made a few boo-boos along the way when they tried to associate these two things together for two different people.
Yeah. Loyalty is an interesting one, because in a way, the small businesses have a leg up, right? Because they actually have a relationship with their customer in their physical store. And then once they launch their e-com, or if they had an e-com prior to the last 12 months, they're just learning more and more about their customers. So in fact, it's giving them a lot of power. It's almost like that bigger retailer doesn't have as much power as the small retailer, which I kind of love.
Well, you know? I think on that bombshell,
it's a wrap.
It's a wrap. Thanks everybody for listening today. And this is Gary Newbury and Liza Amlani. Looking forward to our next exploration of some concept around retail, what we've been doing, what we need to be doing, and how we can improve. So thank you, Liza.
Thanks, Gary.
We hope you enjoyed the conversation. Hit the like button and leave your comments. Connect with us on LinkedIn to get the heads up on future episodes of The Retail Code.